Tonight on First Issues, we consult with co-founder of Consumer Watchdog Botswana, Kate Harriman. As a committed advocate for consumer rights, whose only reward for her efforts in this regard is the satisfaction of getting justice for individual consumers, Kate says that her pet peeve is the everyday ways in which stores disrespect customers, who are in turn made to fight for basic customer service standards. At this point in our relationship with Consumer Watchdog, she has ensured that we are very familiar with the consumer protection regulation that says that anything sold to a consumer must be of merchantable quality, meaning that it must be fit for the purpose for which you bought it, do what it is intended to do. We here at First Issues wondered, however, what protection this merchantable quality regulation offers consumers buying second-hand goods, where the words voetstoots, as seen or as is, are frequently seen in sale agreements and receipts. If you find a defect in a product you have bought, hasn't the person who has sold it to you broken the law by obtaining by false pretenses or cheating? If a consumer is not made aware of a known defect in a product before they buy it, is the seller guilty of obtaining by false pretenses or cheating? And would it be legal for the same seller to insist on a no refunds, no returns policy?
One of the most common complaints we get, usually in relation to buying second-hand cars, is that I bought a car and something's gone wrong after the event. Now, when we buy something new, I think a lot of people now know that we're protected in terms of consumer protection law. So Section 13(1)A of our consumer protection regulations say that when you buy something new, it must be fit for the purpose and of merchantable quality, which means it must work, basically. Things become very much more sketchy when you're buying something second-hand. Unfortunately, what we're finding is a lot of people who are buying things second-hand aren't doing their research first. So yes, the supplier can actually say you're buying something as seen, but they must make that explicitly clear. So when you go and buy something, they must say there's no warranty, we're making no claim about the merchantability or whether it's working or not, you're buying it as seen. And that's the time that a consumer needs to take a step back and say, is this a risk that I'm prepared to take? What guarantees do I have if something goes wrong? So for example, I was just looking at a complaint we had in this morning regarding someone who's bought a car second-hand through an auction. It was a car that had been repossessed from another customer and was being sold by the bank. And they've bought it as seen only to find out afterwards that there's various faults. Now, unfortunately, they've got no comeback to the person they bought the car from because they will have bought it as seen. And as I said, you need to do your research first. You need to check things out. So our advice is when you're buying a car or anything second-hand, check it out with someone who's qualified to inspect it first. So take a mechanic along, ask to test drive the car, ask for a full inspection before you hand over your money. It's unfortunately too late afterwards to say, I've given you 20,000 pula and the car won't work. We've often heard of customers, they've paid 20,000 for a car, it's actually broken down on the way back from the garage. They haven't even got home. So do your research first.
Our guest shared what the main responsibilities consumers have when it comes to purchasing second-hand goods are.
It's very easy to say, oh, as a consumer, we're the ones that are protected and it's up to the supplier to look after us. But we as consumers have responsibilities too. It's not a one-way street. We have responsibilities, firstly, to make sure we know what we're doing. So if you go and buy, for example, you go and buy the wrong shoes and you get them home and you decide you wanted blue shoes, not red shoes, it's not the supplier's fault that you made the wrong decision. You don't actually have a legal right to take them back and say, give me a different colour shoe. It's up to consumers rather, to check the rules before they buy. You know, so many of the cases we get to Consumer Watchdog are because somebody hasn't read the contract. They've signed a one-year contract for, let's say, a phone. They haven't read the small print, they haven't really thought about it before they've made the decision. So our plea, I think, to consumers is to empower yourselves with knowledge before you enter into a transaction and to make sure that you know what you're doing. If you're not sure, don't hand over your money. One of the most powerful tools you have as a consumer is the money in your pocket. The person selling you something wants your money. The time to bargain and the time to argue about the cost or what you're going to get as part of the package is before you hand over your money. The moment they've got your money, you have no control, you have no power.
What is the responsibility of the retailer or seller in these instances? Surely it goes beyond just selling the item, especially if it's second-hand.
You would think so, and you would hope so. And you would hope that suppliers want to behave in a moral way and in a proper way. But unfortunately, there are people out there who want to take our money regardless. They know there's a defect, they know the car doesn't work, for example, and they don't tell you. Same when you come to buying a house. Someone who's lived in a house might know that the roof leaks every rainy season, but they haven't told you at the time that you've bought the house. Case law and precedent actually says that there is not an obligation on the supplier to tell you first. They're not allowed to lie, so if you ask the question, does the roof leak? They can't lie and say, no, it doesn't, but they don't have an obligation to tell you first. It's up to you as a supplier, as a purchaser, as a consumer, to do your research and find out first.
In Consumer Watchdog's view, could improvements be made to our laws to better protect consumers who buy used goods? Or does Kate find the status quo satisfactory?
I think we see an awful lot of problems with, shall we say, dodgy cars being sold. There are many second-hand garages around who are quite happy to sell something that they may themselves may not have been tested. There's been the whole issue of import cars coming in when you don't know what the history is, you don't know whether they've had an accident, and that they're being sold as seen. I think regardless of any law, the most powerful thing a consumer can do is empower themselves with knowledge and make sure that they understand their rights and also their responsibilities. And law is only as effective as the enforcement of that law. So even if we have the best laws in the world, if we don't enforce them, it won't actually protect the consumer. Far better to empower the consumer with knowledge so that the consumer knows the right decisions to make. And I say again, when you're buying a second-hand car or you're buying something where you're not sure, find an expert, find a cousin or somebody who's a mechanic or somebody who knows about these things to actually help you make the decision before you go in and hand over your money.
To get more from life, we need all the help we can get. Like getting a 105% home loan to cover costs like legal fees and deposits. And 55 days interest-free credit when swiping your credit card. And paying 0% deposit to drive the car you want. And helping save for those big things for your family. And earning real rewards for just doing your everyday banking. Isn't it time you got more from life with gold? Switch to F&B today. F&B, how can we help you?
Welcome back to First Issues. We live in increasingly complex times. In the past, employees spent decades at one place of employ. Life expectancies were also generally much lower than the advances in medicine and technology have now allowed. The global economy was also much more predictable and stable. As a result, insurance has become an important way for consumers to mitigate the risks presented by these changing times. Products such as mortgage protectors and even job loss insurance help cushion consumers from increased job insecurity. Pension plans and disability covers go a long way in helping people provide for themselves when they can no longer work as well. And there are a range of products to help protect the assets that you sweat so hard for, from household to car and home insurance. Businesses from all industries, even the most hazardous and risk-intensive, can insure their employees, goods and assets. Despite all this, less than 15% of Botswana are said to be insured. This is due to a lack of financial literacy, as well as other flaws within our insurance industry. Many professionals in the industry have the reputation of being product pushers as opposed to being solution-providing consultants. To address these gaps within the market, the Insurance Institute of Botswana was formed just last year. And tonight, just a few days before their annual conference on Thursday, we speak to this new institution's founding president, Ziki Nganunu, about their role within the insurance industry.
The Insurance Institute of Botswana's role is really to foster professional development and skills development amongst insurance professionals. So the Insurance Institute of Botswana is the professional body for insurance practitioners. So the providers of insurance products, that's the entire chain from the insurance companies, the insurance brokers, the reinsurers, the loss adjusters, everyone involved in the chain of servicing a customer in terms of insurance is an insurance practitioner, and they need to be appropriately skilled and work to professional standards. So the role of IIB is to foster that professionalism and to encourage people to learn new skills and to keep updated at the latest developments in the insurance industry. And the whole purpose of this is to ensure that as an insurance industry, we deliver quality products to consumers. We give them products that are suitable for their needs, to make sure that they are sold the correct products that they need and not sold products they don't need, and to make sure that they properly understand what is the product they're buying, what it does do and what it does not do. So the objective of the Institute is not to train per se, but is to make sure that people access the training and the skills development they need to enable these products and services to be delivered to ordinary people. In terms of the regulator, as you rightly say, the insurance industry is regulated by NBFIRA. NBFIRA is very supportive of the Insurance Institute of Botswana because they also have an interest in ensuring that consumers receive the correct policies, are not missold policies, are not overcharged for policies, that their claims are appropriately handled, and consumers are, do not lose out because they've taken insurance. And that's all because it's important. Insurance is important for businesses, for individuals to protect their assets, but it needs to be sold in the proper manner, and products need to be developed that are appropriate to our needs here in Botswana.
The work you're doing seems very timely. I think there have been discussions as to the insurance industry falling a bit into disrepute with regards to a lack of professionalism, product pushing above all else. So which makes me ask, what would you say are the major issues of discussion within the industry at this current moment, and how is IIB looking to address them?
I think a very topical issue in the insurance industry right now and across the financial sector actually is know your customer. The anti-money laundering compliance has become a very important issue for the country and for the financial services sector. And just as much as you had to provide KYC documents to your bank, you do have to do the same to your insurance company or to your insurance broker. So that has become a very topical issue. At the annual conference, which is happening this week, we will have the Financial Intelligence Agency addressing the insurance professionals about their responsibilities in this regard, what they have to collect and why they have to collect this information. So that's one of the very important topical issues is know your customer and that AML compliance. Another important issue, as you mentioned, is the issue of the reputation of the industry, and what's very important is that consumers have confidence that when they submit a claim, if it's covered, it's going to be paid and paid quickly and so forth. Most of those issues are handled by the regulator. So if someone has a complaint, they can take it to the regulator. What the Insurance Institute will do, its role is to make sure that the person working for the insurance company or the brokerage understands what policy covers make sure that they can make the determination and make a decision and make that payout quickly. So our focus is on the education and understanding side, and the regulator deals with the enforcement side of it.
We wish IIB all the best in looking to promote excellence within the insurance industry. Do stay with us. Up next is another topic of interest.
To get more from life, we need all the help we can get. Like getting a 105% home loan to cover costs like legal fees and deposits. And 55 days interest-free credit when swiping your credit card. And paying 0% deposit to drive the car you want. And helping save for those big things for your family. And earning real rewards for just doing your everyday banking. Isn't it time you got more from life with gold? Switch to FNB today. FNB, how can we help you?
Productivity, leadership, the changing world of work. These are just some of the issues we keep a very close eye on here at First Issues and have covered with the help of various speakers over time. Therefore, the Progressive Institute of Botswana's efforts as an accredited training service provider have not gone unnoticed as they gear up to host their second Career Elevation Seminar. Having acknowledged, as they say, that one of the greatest challenges within the modern workplace is the retention of premium talent in an increasingly competitive global economy, and that this has moved power from employers to employees, turning talent into a seller's market and making the workforce a core strategic concern for the C-suite or top senior executives. Their efforts, therefore, are focused on giving fast-rising employees and high-potential executives the momentum to boost their performance, as well as giving leading organizations the ability to attract, develop, and train premium talent, and thus continuously improve their market position. Tonight, we engage one of the speakers from among the highly esteemed list of commentators from far and wide expected at this upcoming event, to shed light on how you, our loyal viewer, are meant to position yourself as well as to equip yourself with the relevant skills in light of this changing world of work. Our guest, Malebogo Mpuga, is uniquely positioned to speak on matters of skills acquisition, being the head of human resources at multinational company De Beers. She tells us what her experience in talent management has revealed about the skills that will be required in the workplace of the future.
I think one of the critical skills that we are seeing corporates looking for a lot more is collaboration skills, and the ability to collaborate across different geographies, to be able to collaborate with people that are quite diverse. Why is that important? That's important because what we are finding is that due to quite a number of things, I think the first thing is a lot of countries are starting to have a lot more prohibitive immigration laws. So the ease and the flexibility at which we can deploy people into different geographies is becoming a bit of a challenge. That's the first reality. I think the second reality is it's also quite expensive to deploy people into different markets. But you do want people to be part of a broader team that is geographically dispersed. So how do we continue to ensure that the people that you have within country are able to work across different geographies, are able to work across different territories, still based in one particular geography? And so the ability to remotely work across different teams is a very, very important skill. So collaborative skills, I think, is going to become more and more of an important quality going forward. I think the other reality that we are seeing is that we work in the world of big data. That means that you want people that can be able, first of all, to interrogate the data, be quite curious about the data, have critical thinking ability to sense-make the data. So it is the speed at which you are able to go through all this data, make sense, and begin to make informed business decisions. What we're seeing these days is not so much about how much information you have, it's the extent to which you're able to get critical, reliable data that can help you to make swift decisions as a business. And so critical thinking and the ability to sense make is becoming more and more of an important quality. I think the more important thing that we are seeing is it's important to have certain hard skills that don't take away, but the reality is the softer skills are becoming more and more important because people are part of a bigger community, and the extent to which you can integrate and use those skills better is becoming more and more important. And so the future world of work is about how do we harness and look out for those particular skills.
How does a company go about identifying this attitude or these skills, these softer skills? Are they easy to determine or suss out of an individual?
That's a very, very good question, and I think different organizations deploy different things. I think what is important about your particular question is a lot of organizations have to invest and be considered and thoughtful around their talent acquisition strategy, because ultimately what you need to do is you need to be clear about what you're looking for and put in place different ways to acquire and test for the relevance of those skills. Some of the things that we do in our organization is we do things such as business challenge. So we give you a particular real life situation and we ask you scenarios around how you'd go about actually dealing and tackling with a particular issue. So we give you real examples of a day in the life of, for example, an HR officer. What would it look like? How would you go about addressing those specific challenges? What we are looking for is not necessarily what the right answer looks like. It's how do you tackle challenges? What sort of approach do you take to solve problems? Because everyday organizations are looking for people to solve their problems. So how do you go about? Do you collaborate with others? How do you go about networking and engaging different stakeholders? So I think those are some of the mechanisms we can use. In our part of the business, one of the things that we do is we do video recruitment. So in other words, it's online video. And what it does is that it gives you an opportunity to be able to see the person that you're interviewing, but also ask very specific questions. So 5 minutes, walk us through how it would look like for you in this particular role and what are the specific things that you'd go about trying to tease out and address those business challenges. One other thing that some organizations also do, which we also do now, is we actually give you scenarios and we ask you to solve those scenarios and we ask you to solve complex issues and we assess for those sort of things. Some organizations also use psychometrics, so there are certain psychometric assessments that are able to assess motivation, drive, attitude, and work ethic. And so that also helps in terms of looking for the right type of attitude and the right type of behavior. But of course, you can't use one over the other. I think it's a combination of all these things, and you're able to triangulate that information, and it gives you a better picture of the individual. So I think those are the sort of things that organizations are looking at to tease out the softer skills.